Welcome to Curious Goldfish, a podcast community where music and curiosity come together through interesting conversations with the music makers of our world. I'm your host, Jason English. You can find Curious Goldfish in all the major podcast and social media platforms, and of course, we have all of our content on our website, curiousgoldfish.com.
Well, I think my album title kind of hints at that dawn of a new era. I don't know if I'm making a mistake by putting out another record. I've had it kind of, I won't say easy, but it's been a nice ride playing with a lot of other people as the side guy. Yeah. So this could be a mistake, but I've learned to embrace my mistakes, and I think the biggest mistake is being afraid to make mistakes. I'm all for stretching my horizons, and I'm not a big fan about talking about myself or what I'm doing again, but if I have to do it, I will, and it'll force me to think about what I'm doing a little more seriously maybe, and get me somewhere else, hopefully to a better place.
I recently turned 50 years old, and for the better part of those 5 decades, I only knew 2 people who ever lived in Hoboken, New Jersey, just west of New York City. Glenn Stoffel was a colleague of mine for a number of years, and his wife Sabrina used to take their kids to a local musician for guitar lessons. I happened to text Glenn on my way to interview veteran musician James Mastro, asking him about James on the off chance he might have heard of him. Sure enough, Mastro was the very same musician who gave those lessons a handful of years ago. Just another example of how music connects people across generations and across geographic regions, and making the world feel like a much smaller place. James Mastro looks like a gangster. Although he looks the part, he couldn't have been any more cordial as we sat in a cramped green room in the back area of the legendary 40 Watt Club in downtown Athens, Georgia. Former lead man of the Bongos, Mastro recently released his first solo album called Dawn of a New Era, a nod to a new beginning for him and a reluctance that this thing has a chance to fail miserably. I don't think it will. The sound is gritty and raw, straight from the streets of Hoboken, and refined through decades of playing music alongside the likes of Ian Hunter and Patti Smith. We talk about his career, religion, and the new album, as well as a special night where he played with Robert Plant. He may not be a gangster, but Mastro plays a song off the new album called Gangster Baby, a song about the emotions surrounding a newfound love. Here's James Mastro from Hoboken, New Jersey. Let's dive in. Hey, James, welcome to Georgia.
Hey, thank you, Jason. Good to be here.
So you've kind of kicked off a tour this spring, right?
We did.
Off the new album. Mm-hmm. How's your time in the South going?
So far, so good. You know, and Athens, especially for me, is a pretty special place. You know, it was always, any band I was in, it was always our favorite place to come to. So it's been a while since I've been here, so looking forward to it.
Okay. Well, tell me more about that. Obviously, Athens is legendary for a number of reasons, but why for you specifically?
Well, band I was in the 80s, the Bongos, it was, for whatever reason, Athens was our second home. And even though it's a southern town, it reminded us a lot of Hoboken, New Jersey, where we were based out of, as far as like a great bunch of bands. And we became friendly with a lot of the bands. You know, REM, those guys were, buddies. And so we'd cross paths, we'd it was like an underground railroad from Hoboken to Athens for us. So.
Well, that's great to hear. Yeah, that's great to hear. Actually, your music reminds me a little bit of, I don't know if one of the bands you cross paths was they're from Athens, Vigilantes of Love.
Oh, yeah, I remember them.
Bill Maloney, yeah. Mm-hmm. So your sound and kind of your style, especially some of the songs off the album, reminded me of like, okay, that Bill could could be playing that. So
Oh,
it's kind
cool.
of kind of ironic. But coming from Hoboken, what's your perception of the South? Like just in terms of, culture and music, is it, I'm always curious. I'm not really from here. I'm from the Midwest, but I'm always curious what the Northerners kind of think about everything.
Well, I'm a slow moving kind of guy, so I feel totally at home here. And even when I wasn't on tour, I had made so many friends down here that I was always coming down and spending time. And if I hadn't met my wife up there, who was introduced to me by a friend down here,
Oh wow!
I might have moved down here.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So I'm totally at home down here.
Sweet tea and
That's
grits
all
and
I
everything.
need.
Okay,
Give me some sweet tea and I'm good to go. So,
there's not a lot of sweet tea in New Jersey. I don't think. Right?
Not good.
So how has the record, do you think, been received since you've been on the road?
Really good. I mean, most of the dates I've done so far have been locally New York, New Jersey. So this is, we're just a few days into the tour, but no one's thrown anything at me so far. And I've been able to get people to sing along at times. So I'll take that as a good sign. So.
Yeah, no, that's good. And you've been in music forever. I guess why now in terms of the timing of your solo album?
I don't know. It could be a mistake. We'll find out. But like a lot of people, COVID, I guess, really kind of spurred it on. I had forced downtime. I had started recording some tracks just for fun. A friend of mine known as Tony Shanahan, the producer of the record, has a great studio in Jersey. And anytime there was downtime, he'd call me up and say, let's go in, what do you got? Right. So it forced me to write a song.
Right.
During COVID, up until COVID, I was mainly just either playing with Ian Hunter or hired gun with other people. So that kept me busy for the past 20 years, and I love it. It's a good challenge learning songs, and I've been playing with people that inspired me to play in the first place. With COVID, that all kind of came to a halt, and I was looking at these songs I had started recording. I was like, well, I got a record here. So finished it, and here we are.
Yeah. Did you have a message to sort of give to the world, or is it you haven't done it before and you wanted to see what the process was?
I've had records out under bands that I've fronted, the Health and Happiness Show, and with the Bongos I was writing.
Yeah.
It seemed like time. As far as a message, the record was done over a course of time, so there wasn't. Now that I look at it in hindsight, and I'm forced to talk about it, I do see a thread. At the time, I didn't. We were just doing it catch as catch can.
Yeah.
But the first song we recorded was the song "My God."
Okay. Yeah.
And that has some kind of message to it. So everything else, I think and it was like a song I'd never really written before. And it was a hard song for me to write. Usually I don't have a hard time, but that one just felt so out of my wheelhouse. And I was lucky enough at that time when I was working on it that I was also working with Patti Smith. So I had her ear, and I sent her these lyrics, the rough draft. I'm like, am I in the zone here? What do you think? Is this worth pursuing? And she encouraged me enough to go on with it. And I think that song kind of set the tone for the rest of it. I tried to live up to it. And working with Ian Hunter all these years, who is to me one of the best lyricists still, also kind of gave me the theme of like, I don't want to let him down. I don't want to embarrass him. So you have these people that you've been around, and they've set a good goal for you to try to attain, and so that's what I was going for.
That's awesome. How did you come to the collection that ended up on the record? Did you have a lot and whittle it down, or is that kind of where
that was
where you're
pretty
at?
much it. Again, writing for a particular day. A few days ahead of time, I'd get the call, let's go record something. Okay, I'll do it. I'd take my dog out for a walk and start working on it, you know.
Right.
But I'm not sharing the publishing with the dog. You know, so.
Yeah, enough people are trying to take a bite out of it anyway, right? That's true. It's funny that you kind of led with My God, because there's a couple songs that stick out. That was the one for me the first time I listened to the album through, only because I grew up in the Midwest, basically the buckle of the Bible Belt. I live in the South. Religion, for a lot of the artists I've talked to, that it's a big part of their childhood and, you know, lifestyle down here. And so I want to ask you, you know, do you consider yourself a very religious or spiritual person? And then what the song is really interesting, because I think you're kind of sending a message. It's a little bit of there's a little bit of digs, I think, a little bit, kind of tongue in cheek, if I'm understanding. But then there's a message of, hey, you know, love is blind, and we're all under the same. We're all living the same earth, and you know, my God may be the same as your God, or something like that, right? Is that am I on the track?
Yeah, totally. And who am I to judge someone else's God? You know, if you believe in a God, I think he's probably or she is probably a very good person, and would not want you casting aspersions on someone else's beliefs, as long as you're not hurting someone. I think that's the message.
Okay.
That tolerance, and you know, is it right or is it wrong? Is it dumb or is it smart? To me, it should be that simple. You know, I've been lucky enough to travel around the world, and you see other religions, you see other people, other nationalities, and everyone. It boils down to the same things. Everyone wants to be happy. Everyone wants to be fed and have a place to sleep. So if you have those things and you're coexisting, that's great.
That's great. Yeah.
You know, and that's let's leave it at that.
Right.
You know?
Right. How big of a part does religion play in your life?
As a youngster, huge. I was brought up very religious.
Yeah.
I'm of Greek descent, so ancient Greeks, we had tons of gods. So that's maybe why I can tolerate all the gods. But as I got older and as I traveled more and read more, you see a lot of similarities in other religions.
Yeah.
So you learn that I don't think there's one religion is better than the other.
Yeah.
And so I think if you feel that way, you just need to look around a little more and compare. And there's so many similarities between religions, more than people realize. More than differences.
Right. And then I think there's another song. It sounds like you had a gospel choir behind you.
Yes.
Was that?
Make sure those were all my friends.
Funny.
We dubbed them a gospel choir. Someday someone will turn your head around. And that song was written because I knew going into that particular session, there were going to be a lot of people there. It was done for a certain project. So a lot of my friends were going to be there. So I figured I'm going to put them to work, and let's see if I can get 15 people on the same page, you know. And lyrically, if it seemed like you wanted to ask if there's a connection between the two.
Right.
There is. It's also, you never know when something can turn your life around, or you may be having the worst day and then you hear a song on the radio that lifts you, or, you know, you see how a mother interacts with her kid on the street, and that can break my crappy mood, or it's about just keeping your antennas up, be ready. It's not as bad as maybe it looks like right now.
Yeah. You know? Well, yeah. Again, a theme that with some of the other folks I've talked to, especially those that are a little bit more long in the tooth, like me and you, you know, that have had careers, not for me like in music, but there's this real theme of like being open to possibilities and not being so focused on like the here and now, but like being open to what's around you. And that's sort of the theme I got from that song. It's like, be ready for things to change for the positive.
Yeah,
right?
That's it, because it will, no matter, and maybe I'm the eternal optimist, but no matter how bad something can seem, it can get better, and chances are there's someone who's going through something a lot worse than what you're going through right now, which may not be a consolation. And so if you're out there and not feeling good, I get it, but just hang in there. And I think a lot of these times most of the time I'm writing these songs to make myself feel better.
Okay, yeah.
Something will spur you on, or you'll feel down, or So it's my therapy, and if it translates over and helps someone else, great.
Yeah. How you've had this incredible career playing with so many different types of artists and in venues and in different bands and everything. To what extent do you think music has helped you along the way? Not just as a performer, but listening and either contemplating on lyrics and things like that. Like,
right.
have you experienced music being that pivotal for you?
Totally.
Yeah.
I don't say it in light. I don't know if I'd be here if it wasn't for music.
Yeah.
So many of my friends I grew up with are not here, and it's music has really kept me going. Other people's music, focusing on mine, just having something.
Yeah.
And for someone else, it may be painting, or it may be doing odd jobs around the house that keeps them going.
Right.
It's just, I feel I was lucky enough to find something that I still get excited about. This same now as when I heard, the Monkees on the radio or saw them on TV. So,
no, that's cool. No, that's good. I think another thing that for me that I, again, in doing this podcast, it's really been a nice surprise is the way that music, and I'm sure you have great examples of this, just connects different walks of life,
mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah.
So the other day I interviewed this young woman. She's in Brooklyn. We couldn't be more opposite, but I reached out to her because I heard a song on a playlist. And I was like, man, that's really different. But like that, if it wasn't for that, like there would be zero reason for me to talk to her, you know? And so like, through the years, I'm sure, again, you've played with so many different types of artists, but isn't that the cool part about music is like you can connect with anyone at any time, right?
Absolutely. And you get a note from someone that can turn your head around, and just, or I've made friends down here or any town I go to where I wouldn't have if it wasn't for music. Yeah. Music is one of those arts that just is everywhere. A painting, a play is maybe a little more exclusive, where it's a lot of people don't witness it as much or get to exposed to it as much. But music, you can do anywhere. You can hear it anywhere.
Yeah.
You can write a song in your head while you're walking around. So
no, that's great. So you mentioned we're in Athens. You mentioned REM, but you have had just this incredible experience with so many different artists. And I'm not going to have you go through like your best memories, but I think there was an interview that you recently did where it outlined a fair number, and one that really stuck out that if you could just elaborate on a little bit is, I think, did you open or did you play with, you and your band played with Robert Plant?
We did.
Right?
Which was incredible.
I mean, how did that happen? And like, tell us all.
There was a benefit being organized for Arthur Lee, the lead singer of the band Love, the 60s band, who had serious medical issues. And I knew the promoter who was organizing it, and he had asked if Ian Hunter would do it, and Ian said yes. So the promoter also reached out to Robert Plant, who is a huge fan of Love. And Robert didn't say no. So Steve, the promoter, called me up. He's like, Robert wants to do it. Would you guys back him up? Would you be his band? I'm like, yeah. So again, you always take these things with a grain of salt too. But 2 days later, I get a call. Hello, James. This is Robert, and I just started laughing. And within a minute, we're sitting there talking set lists. Like, well, do you think we should do Houses of the Holy? Or so it was a very surreal moment for me, having listened to Led Zeppelin, learned their songs as a teenager. But what made it very special was how great a person he was.
Oh,
too.
that's good. That's good to hear.
And just a joy to be around, and a total pro, but also, and I found this with most of the people who we probably all love, a huge music fan.
Oh, wow.
So just talking anything, he would be like the guy you're standing next to in a record store going through records, just so knowledgeable and just so much fun to talk to about that. I'm not going to talk to him about Led Zeppelin. We're going to talk about Love or Big Bill Brunsey or something.
Oh, wow.
So it was memorable. On stage, I've never been on a stage where someone commanded so much power from an audience. Like, he could have told them to tear the place down and they would have right then and there. It was just incredible.
That is incredible. Yeah. How long ago was that?
This was 15 years ago or so, right. A while ago.
Yeah.
But, I'll never forget it.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Do you have another memory that sticks out for you in your years?
Certainly with Ian Hunter, there have been so many great gigs. And the first gig I ever did with him, it was in New York at the Bowery Ballroom. And I just remember when the encore song was All the Young Dudes. And what impressed me so much, it's a great song. And even though you're not really sure what it means, it connects with people, and it's become an anthem. And what I remember seeing was everyone in the crowd, and I've seen this with bands I play with, people sing along, but for that song, as people sang along, they lost 30 years or 20 years in their face. You could see them as they were as teenagers or when they first heard that song. Like, it was just such a joyous thing to witness, like people were thrown back in time with this song and singing. And so I'll never forget that. And playing with Patti Smith, we played in Athens, Greece. And again, I mentioned I'm Greek descent. So we played on the tallest mountain in the center of Athens, Lycabettus, and I had family members there. And just as a kid, I always dreamed about playing this. So walking up on stage with her to do this was just,
Is that the one where you actually spoke Greek to everybody?
Yeah,
right, cool.
Yeah. She was like, say something in Greek to them. It was a pretty special, powerful night.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, so
that's great.
And I have to say, anyone I've played with, there's always been something memorable and special. So I feel very lucky that I'm able to share that with people and be on stage with these great artists. So.
Well, speaking of that, you're touring with Alejandro Escovedo.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. How did you guys meet each other? Have you known each other for a while?
Years ago.
Yeah.
When Alejandro was in the band Rank and File and the Bongos, we'd cross paths, and we always kept in touch. And Alejandro, like me, is a huge Ian Hunter fan, so I'm not the Hoople fan. So we always shared that. So I kind of got him and Ian together, working on some stuff, and we're just for this tour, I've played with him on and off over the years. He saw I had a record coming out. He had a record coming out. And he's like, well, why don't you come on, open the tour, and then you can play with me. I was like, that's a win-win.
Oh, that's perfect, yeah.
You know, how can I say no to that?
No, that's great. That's great. When does it? How long is the tour? I probably should know this.
This leg is 5 weeks.
5 weeks. Okay, cool.
And then there's a lot more coming in the spring, in the summer, and a tour in September with Jason Isabel. So
no way. Well, there you go.
So it's going to be a busy year. Too,
oh, that's exciting. Yeah. That's good. Well, you're interesting because you've in terms of genres, I almost feel like you can kind of tuck yourself into anything and represent most anything.
Well,
right.
I'm working on the speed metal.
EDM, maybe. I don't know.
Well, I've always had a huge record collection, and just for whatever reason, never was in any one genre, and I love everything, and I try to not sound like I'm faking it, and hopefully I'm not. It's just it's all in there. It's one big stew.
It's a stew. Yeah. That's awesome. So in terms of putting out the solo album, was there? I know you're part of Impress Records, right? Was there any part of that process that sort of surprised you, given the again, I know you've had been a part of various bands through the years, but now with the current state of music, right, with playlists and streaming and the fact that, again, some of these folks I talk to, I feel like more of their focus is on merchandise than it is on whatever, right? Was that all kind of known to you? Was there any part of this process and this album specifically that kind of surprised you?
Well, I've never been a fan. The word music and business I never liked them put together.
Yeah.
And certainly from the last time I put out a record with my band, The Health and Happiness Show, things are different. It's just a different world. Yeah, I'm learning to do things differently. I learned from watching my daughter's band, Long Neck. I call her up saying, what do I do now?
Oh, wow. Interesting.
But Empress is a great label for that, a small label. And the thing that I really like about them too is that it's run by women. It's all women. So I find that very refreshing, just because it's a different way of looking at things too. So I feel like I'm in very good hands. They're very nurturing, so yes, I'm learning more about the game that I thought I knew, But
yeah, do you think you'll do it again? Do you think
another record,
another solo album?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
I've started while I'm out with this. I've started writing some stuff. So.
Okay, well, that's exciting.
Yeah,
there you go.
See what happens.
All right. Well, just in closing, I guess. So the inspiration for this podcast is Ted Lasso. Did you watch Ted Lasso by chance?
Of course.
Okay. So that's cool. Some people haven't, which is fine, but I always encourage people to do that. But again, a big theme of that is, like I always think about the Dart scene where he's like, be curious, not judgmental. Mm-hmm. He quotes Walt Whitman, but legend has it that Walt Whitman never really said that.
Which quote is that?
It's, be curious, not judgmental.
Okay.
Like he saw that on a wall with his dad, and it led to the whole thing with the darts. But so curiosity, I think, is important in life, right? And I think being an artist, you've got to be curious about all sorts of things. So at this stage in your career, what are you still most curious about?
Well, I think my album title kind of hints at that. Dawn of a New Era. I don't know if I'm making a mistake by putting out another record. I've had it kind of, I won't say easy, but it's been a nice ride playing with a lot of other people as the side guy. Yeah. So this could be a mistake, but I've learned to embrace my mistakes, and I think the biggest mistake is being afraid to make mistakes. I'm all for stretching my horizons, and I'm not a big fan about talking about myself or what I'm doing again, but if I have to do it, I will, and it'll force me to think about what I'm doing a little more seriously, maybe, and get me somewhere else, hopefully to a better place. So.
Oh, that's great. Well, one thing is, the pictures that are out there of you, whether it's on your website or in articles and stuff. I didn't know what your background was. I didn't know well, I forgot you were Greek, but you're very Jersey looking, right? Like in the best way possible. Okay. But it's one of those things where it's like, okay, this is the guy that's like, it looks like he's a real hard ass and kind of rough around the edges, good. Just like comes across as like this guy. But I feel like you don't take yourself too seriously.
Well, I take playing music seriously.
Yeah.
But when you're a parent, you've changed 3,000 diapers, when you've driven in a van for 10 hours to play for an hour and a half, which seems insane when you think about it. Yeah, I'm not going to take what I do too seriously. I'm going to try and do what I do well. But to me, I'm going to take a plumber's job much more seriously. What they're doing, I depend on them. And not to belittle what I do, or I don't, I take it seriously, but I try and be humble about it.
No, yeah. No, it comes across in a great way. Well, speaking of humble, you have to sort of humble yourself to do a music video like you did. It's so tongue in cheek, right?
It is. Yes.
And that's the lead track, right?
Yeah, for Right Words, Wrong Song.
Right Words, Wrong Song. So that if for those of you listening, you got to check that out because it's pretty wild.
And again, I've been asked to do other videos for friends, and I just never want to do it.
You don't seem like a video guy.
No, but I figured, okay, I've been told I should make a video. I'm going to have fun with this. Yeah. And we did, and I had some great people helping me out.
Yeah, so. No, it worked out. And so I appreciate your time, James.
Oh, thank you, Jason.
Yeah, so nice to meet you, and good luck tonight.
Thanks, man.
At the 40 Watt here
40
in Athens.
Watt here in Athens, Georgia.
Perfect. Thanks so much.
All right, man. So, Jason, this is a song from the new record, Dawn of a New Era, and it's called Gangster Baby. 2, 3, 4. The light in your eyes will guide our escape before the dawn breaks. Gangster baby. You're crying, but you're mine, all mine. All I wanna do is spend my time with you, gangster baby. No walls high enough, no chains are strong enough, no noose is tight enough. All the money, and diamonds, and gold that you begged, borrowed, and stole, they just don't mean a thing. It's your love that I need, gangster baby. Be my gangster baby. Bang, bang, shoot me up, baby.
Thanks so much for joining us for another episode of Curious Goldfish. Please follow and subscribe to the podcast and on social media. Also, tell your music-loving friends about us too. Until next time, stay curious.